My parents sold my graduation trip savings to bail my sister out after she shoplifted a $900 handbag. When I cried, Mom laughed, "Don't be so dramatic, it's just money." 3 years later, she asked me for help with rent. I sent her a screenshot of. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon. A nice, chill college town where people are more into organic kale and hiking boots than drama and crime. My family was modest, not rich, but we had what we needed. My mom, Nadine, worked as a part-time dental hygienist and part-time retail assistant at a boutique downtown. My dad, Roy, worked as a carpenter, mainly custom home renovations. They were the type who clipped coupons but would drop $100 at Applebee's if they were celebrating something. I'm Katrina, but everyone calls me Kat. I've always been the quiet one. The good kid. The planner. I got straight A's, had a part-time job starting at 16, stayed out of trouble, and spent most of high school saving every cent I earned working at a small cafe downtown called Bean Scene. My plan was simple: graduate with honors, take a month-long solo trip to Italy, specifically Florence and Rome, then start college at the University of Oregon. I was obsessed with Italian history and art. I'd read about the Uffizi since I was 14. I wanted to stand in front of Botticelli's Primavera with tears in my eyes, not scroll past it on Pinterest like everyone else. So I worked. I opened a savings account in my name when I was 16, but since I was a minor, it was technically a joint account with my mom. She knew what the money was for. I told her every time I deposited anything. She would smile and say, "This is your dream, honey. You earned this." By senior year, I'd saved just over $4,300. I had it planned down to the last euro. Then came Daphne. My younger sister. 2 years younger. Beautiful in that way people just gravitate toward: green eyes, bouncy brown curls, always laughing, always surrounded by people. But Daphne had a wild streak. She was constantly on edge with the rules, always pushing the line. Shoplifting lip gloss, sneaking out, blowing off homework. My parents always explained it away. She's just young. She'll grow out of it. It's just a phase. I didn't say much, but it always frustrated me how everything Daphne did somehow ended up being about protecting her feelings. Even when she hurt others, the conversation would circle back to how Daphne didn't mean it. Senior year, 2 weeks before graduation, I came home from work and the house was weirdly quiet. I could hear Mom on the phone in the kitchen, whispering furiously. Then I heard, "We can come down and pay it. Please don't press charges." I didn't think much of it until later that night when Mom sat me down. "Daphne made a mistake," she said, like it was about bad grades or skipping school. Turns out, Daphne had gone to Valley River Center with some friends and got caught trying to walk out of Nordstrom with a $900 Kate Spade handbag tucked under her coat. Security stopped her. Her friends ran. She didn't. The store threatened charges. She was 16. My parents were horrified. But not at her. At the idea of Daphne having a record. "She's just a kid," Mom said over and over. I asked what they were going to do. "We're handling it," Dad said, not meeting my eyes. That night I couldn't sleep. I had this pit in my stomach. The next morning, I decided to transfer my money to a new account at a different bank, one in my own name. I had just turned 18, and figured it was finally time to have full control. But when I went in to initiate the transfer, the teller gave me a weird look. "You want to transfer $0?" she asked, showing me the screen. I thought it was a mistake. Maybe it was locked? Maybe I logged into the wrong account? Nope. It had been drained. Cleared out completely. Not a single dollar left. I was stunned. I called my mom immediately. She didn't answer. I went home, straight into the kitchen, and asked what happened. And she said it. "We used it to bail Daphne out. We had no choice." I was shaking. "You used my money?" "That was mine. That was for my trip." Mom rolled her eyes like I was throwing a tantrum over a broken toy. "It's just money, Katrina. Don't be so dramatic." Then she laughed. I will never forget that moment. That laugh was cruel. Cold. It wasn't the laugh of someone nervous or sorry. It was dismissive. Belittling. I walked out of the house, sat in my car, and cried for an hour in a Safeway parking lot. I didn't go to Italy. I didn't get a refund. I couldn't. The money was gone. I had already booked hostels, non-refundable flights, museum tickets. It was all gone. I worked for 2 years to build it, and in one night they erased it. Daphne? She never even said sorry. Not once. In fact, 3 weeks later, she posted pictures from her birthday party at home, smiling next to a new iPhone and some designer shoes. I couldn't believe it. Graduation came and went. I smiled in pictures, but inside, I was numb. My friends talked about their summer plans: Thailand, Mexico, Europe. I said I was just going to work and chill. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I moved out 3 months later for college. Paid for it with grants, scholarships, and loans. My parents didn't help. I worked part-time at the student union and started tutoring underclassmen for extra cash. Slowly, I rebuilt my savings. I stopped going home for the holidays. Daphne would occasionally text me something useless: "You alive?" or "Got any snacks and PDX?" But I never responded with more than a few words. The wound was deep. Not just about the money, but what it represented: years of being second to someone who never had to earn anything. Fast forward 3 years. I'm 21 now. I graduated last month with a degree in environmental policy. I work at a small nonprofit in Portland. I live in a studio with my best friend, Sienna. Life is stable. Simple. Quiet. This morning, I finally did it. I booked a trip to Italy. Same itinerary I dreamed about: Florence, Rome, Tuscany. Hostels. Trains. Wine. Art. Street food. It's happening. I was sitting on the couch, sipping tea, smiling for the first time in a while, and my phone buzzed. It's a text. From Daphne. It was the first time she'd messaged me in months. "Daphne, hey. I know we haven't talked in a while. I'm kinda in a tight spot right now. I was wondering if you could help me out with rent this month." "No, how are you?" "No, sorry for stealing your dream 3 years ago." No explanation. Just straight to the task. I stared at my phone like it had just grown horns. I didn't reply right away. I actually walked around the block twice before I could process what I was feeling. Anger, sure. But also disbelief. She thought she could ask me for money, like we were close, like nothing had ever happened. And that part? That's what cut deepest. Because in her mind, it was probably all water under the bridge. An old mistake she barely remembered, something that was no longer relevant. Meanwhile, I'd carried it like a brick in my chest for years. I opened the banking app on my phone and looked at the flight confirmation email again: my flight to Florence, booked for late August, with a side trip to Rome and a cooking class in Bologna. I'd paid for it in full, upfront. No credit cards. Just savings. Just me. I took a screenshot of the confirmation and sent it to her. "Me, funny. I was just thinking about you. Finally going on that trip to Italy. You remember, right? The one I worked 2 years for? The one Mom emptied to bail you out after you stole that purse?" It stayed undelivered for a while. Then it turned to read. No reply. I told myself I wouldn't care. But I kept checking the screen, waiting to see those typing bubbles. Nothing. Just silence. I didn't need an apology at that point. But a "yeah, I get it now" would have gone a long way. About 2 hours later, my mom called me. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Her voice had that sharp edge she always got when she was pretending to be calm but was actually furious. "Katrina, I just got off the phone with your sister. She told me what you said to her. Honestly, I'm shocked. Family is supposed to help each other. How can you be so selfish? She's struggling, and you're rubbing vacations in her face. I raised you better than this." That was rich. I played the voicemail twice, trying to feel something other than old familiar shame. The kind that used to work on me when I was a teenager, when disappointing Mom meant I had failed. But this time, it didn't land. I was calm. So calm, it scared me a little. Later that night, I got another text from Daphne. "Daphne, I didn't tell them to use your money. That was Mom and Dad. Not me. You've been punishing me for something I didn't even control." That part? It almost got to me. Almost. But then I remembered the week after it happened. How she paraded around like she was the victim. How she posted pictures of her new phone while I stayed in bed for 2 days crying, watching my non-refundable hostel reservations disappear from my inbox. She knew. She just didn't care. And now, suddenly, when rent's due and the bank account is empty, she remembers me? I typed, deleted, and retyped my response at least 4 times. But in the end, I sent, you didn't say anything when it mattered. You never even said sorry. You never asked if I was okay. So no, I'm not going to help you now. Good luck. Delivered. Read. No reply. A few hours later, I got another message from Mom. Not a voicemail this time. A text. Mom, if you want to cut us off over money, that's your choice. Just know you're making it clear who you are. I almost laughed. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about betrayal. About being invisible. About how easy it was for them to take something I'd worked for without blinking, and then demand loyalty when it suited them. I didn't reply. I blocked her number. It's been 3 days since then. I haven't heard from either of them again. My dad, who usually stays out of the drama, hasn't reached out. He rarely does. He always lets Mom do the talking. Sienna, my roommate, knows most of this. She's been supportive in the quiet, non-invasive way that good friends are. She made me pasta the night Daphne first texted. Sat beside me while I scrolled through Airbnb listings in Tuscany. Let me have my space without pushing. I haven't told anyone else. Not because I'm ashamed, but because I think most people wouldn't get it. They'd say, but they're your family, or maybe it's time to forgive. They weren't there. They didn't hear the laugh. They didn't hear, don't be so dramatic. They didn't see the savings I worked years for wiped away in a day like it meant nothing. And now, here I am. About to finally live the dream I fought for. A dream I rebuilt from the ground up. Not because anyone gave it to me. But because I earned it. I've never felt more certain about who I am or where I stand. I didn't tell anyone in my family that I booked the Italy trip. Not Dad. Not even my Aunt Mira, who I'm technically still in contact with, though she's more of a Facebook observer than a regular presence in my life. I told Sienna, of course. She screamed and hugged me when I showed her the flight confirmation. Then she immediately pulled up a folder on her laptop titled Cat's Italy Dream Trip that I didn't even know she was keeping. It was full of things I'd mentioned offhandedly over the years: Florentine gelato places, rooftop wine bars, a tour of the Boboli Gardens at sunrise. I just had a feeling you'd find your way back to this, she said. That night, she bought us a $12 bottle of Prosecco from the corner store and we clinked glasses in our tiny kitchen. But in the back of my mind, I could still feel the weight of my mom's last message. That smug little dig, you're making it clear who you are. She meant it as a condemnation. I took it as a compliment. The next week was quiet. My phone stayed silent. I didn't expect Daphne to follow up, and she didn't. I imagined the conversation with my mom went exactly how I thought it would, my refusal repackaged as a personal attack, me painted as ungrateful, and her as the long-suffering mother of 2 girls, one golden, one cold. Still, despite everything, a part of me hoped my dad would reach out. We were never especially close. He was the quiet type. Tinkered in the garage. Loved talking about tools. He never stood up for me during the whole Daphne incident, but he also never joined in when Mom dismissed my hurt. He just existed in the background, like a faded photograph, there, but barely. When nothing came, I wasn't surprised. Just disappointed in a way that didn't sting anymore. Just familiar. About 2 weeks later, I got an email. Not a text. Not a call. An email. From my mom. The subject line, an explanation, if you'll read it. I almost deleted it. I hovered over the trash icon for a full minute. But curiosity won. It was 3 paragraphs long. Carefully worded. Controlled. She said she wished things had gone differently. That decisions were made in a moment of panic. That no one anticipated the long-term consequences. She never once apologized. Not directly. Not even a variation of I'm sorry. Instead, she wrote this: Daphne was only a child, Cat. A mistake like that could have changed the course of her whole life. You wouldn't understand what that's like from a parent's point of view. And that's when I realized something I'd known deep down, but hadn't put into words until that moment. She never saw me as someone who could be hurt. Because I wasn't the one who needed rescuing. I wasn't the problem child. I wasn't fragile. I was always the stable one, the dependable one, the one who would figure it out on her own. So when I cried, it didn't register as trauma, it registered as drama. When I saved for 2 years, it wasn't seen as discipline, it was seen as optional. Dispensable. Because in their eyes, my life didn't need to be protected. Daphne needed saving. Katrina would be fine. I closed the email and didn't respond. I focused on planning the trip instead. I poured hours into it, letting the logistics be my therapy. I picked a hostel in Florence with rooftop views of the Duomo. Found a pasta-making class and a family-run kitchen in Bologna. Reserved a Vespa tour through the hills of Tuscany. Booked a small Airbnb in Rome near Trastevere with crumbling brick walls and windows that opened into a tiny, sunlit courtyard. Every dollar was accounted for. And every part of the plan was mine. No one could touch it this time. No one had access. I didn't need permission or validation or help. Just my passport, my suitcase, and a whole new chapter. About a week before the trip, I ran into someone from high school. Her name was Marin. We weren't close, but she worked a few shifts at the cafe during my junior year. We recognized each other instantly at Powell's Books in Portland. Kat? Oh my God, I haven't seen you since, graduation? She told me she'd moved to Portland for grad school. We caught up briefly. Talked about old coworkers. Then she asked, "Are you still close with your family?" I laughed before I could stop myself. Not a bitter laugh. Just that sharp, amused kind of laugh that comes when you realize no one really knows what goes on behind the curtain. I told her the Cliff Notes version. Nah, things got messy after high school. That was enough. She nodded. That track. Your mom was always intense. It surprised me. I didn't think anyone noticed. But that small moment? It made me feel a little more sane. The day before my flight, I packed. I kept expecting to feel anxious, but all I felt was peace. I texted Sienna updates every hour like a kid on Christmas Eve. I even printed my itinerary, something I hadn't done in years, and folded it into the front pocket of my carry-on. Then I sat down and opened my journal. The same one I'd used through high school, college, all of it. I found the page where I had originally written Italy trip budget, graduation summer. Under it were scribbles, old calculations, hostel names that didn't exist anymore, ticket prices that had long since doubled. I wrote next to it, delayed, but not denied. Then I turned the page. I still haven't responded to my mom's email. I don't plan to. I didn't tell them I was leaving. I didn't post about the trip on Instagram or Facebook. I didn't even tell my extended family. This time, I'm not documenting it for likes or approval. This one's just for me. Italy was everything I had imagined. And more. I touched down in Florence in late August, just as the summer crowds started thinning out. The air was hot and dry, the kind that clings to your skin but somehow still feels right when you're walking along ancient cobblestone streets. The first time I saw the Duomo, I cried. Just stood there in the middle of Piazza del Duomo, head tilted back, staring at that massive, breathtaking dome with tears rolling down my cheeks. I didn't even try to hide it. For 2 years, I had dreamed of that exact moment. Then it was stolen from me. Now I was taking it back, not just the view, but the sense of belonging in my own story again. I rode a Vespa through the hills of Tuscany with a small group of solo travelers. I drank Chianti under the stars in a vineyard that looked like it had fallen out of a painting. I visited the Uffizi and stood in front of Primavera, just like I planned. This time, no Pinterest. Just me, a bench, and a silent moment that felt holy. I felt whole. Each day was a quiet act of rebellion. A slow reclamation of everything that had been dismissed, belittled, laughed off. I didn't talk to anyone from home the entire trip. But I thought about them sometimes. Especially one night in Rome, after a long walk through Trastevere. I sat alone on a little balcony, sipping espresso after dinner. And for the first time, I opened the family folder in my photos. There weren't many pictures of us. There were a few from my graduation. One of me holding my diploma, mom smiling next to me, her hand on my shoulder. I stared at her face. It looked warm, proud. But I could still hear her saying, "Don't be so dramatic. It's just money." So I deleted the photo. Not out of spite, but because it didn't match the reality. And I no longer felt the need to pretend. I got back to Portland in mid-September, tan and lighter in a way I hadn't felt in years. Sienna picked me up from the airport and listened to my stories on the entire drive home, like the saint she is. And then, the very next day, like clockwork, I got a call from my mom. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Katrina," she said, sounding both annoyed and uncertain, "I know you're back. We'd like to talk. It's been long enough." I didn't respond. A week later, Daphne texted me again. "Daphne, so I got evicted. LOL. Guess karma's AB asterisk asterisk asterisk. Still wouldn't say no to help, though." Grinning face with sweat asterisk, I stared at the message for a while. Then I decided something. I wasn't going to block them. Blocking feels like slamming a door. Satisfying in the moment, but it still leaves the other person guessing. No, I wanted to leave the door wide open. Just wide enough that they could see in, but not walk through. Let them feel that access, and realize they had no power to use it. So I texted back. "Me, hope you figure things out. I've got a lot going on, traveling again soon. Sending you some of that drama money." Airplane departure person tipping hand female sign attached was a photo of me standing in front of the Coliseum, smiling wide, the caption, "Don't be so dramatic, it's just money." Then I muted the conversation. Not blocked. Just quiet. Over the next few months, I rebuilt my life brick by brick. Not from ruin, but from realization. I started freelancing on the side, writing, consulting. My job with the nonprofit was steady, but I had bigger plans. I opened my own savings account for future trips. I started planning Japan for next spring. Then one day, something unexpected happened. I got a letter. An actual handwritten letter. From my dad. It was short. Just a single page. But he wrote that he was sorry, for not stepping in, for not protecting what I'd worked for. He said he thought about it a lot, and that while he didn't know how to fix anything, he hoped I'd keep doing what made me happy. No guilt. No requests. Just quiet remorse. That letter is still in my drawer. I haven't written back yet. But I might. Eventually. Last month, I got word through a family friend that mom had started working extra hours at the boutique again. Turns out, Daphne moved back in and wasn't helping much. There were whispers about credit card debt. Missed payments. Late bills. I don't rejoice in it. Not really. But I won't lie, it felt balanced. They made choices. I made mine. They bet on the child who needed saving. And I became the one who didn't need them at all. So now, when I walk past travel agencies or see a commercial for Florence on TV, I don't feel bitterness anymore. I feel triumph. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet, satisfying kind. Because the best revenge isn't cruelty or silence. It's freedom.